So what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast, as well as another live Powerhouse training in the free Powerhouse Facebook community. The biggest thing that we're going to talk about today is how to stop tolerating your own bullshit, which I already did a podcast about, and I dropped that podcast today. And for those listening on the podcast, it was the episode prior to this. So if you're somebody in life where you're feeding yourself bullshit, you have all of these excuses, and you want to build discipline to finally win in life in all different areas, in career, in your family life, in your health, and your fitness, you just want to be a better version of yourself, then go listen to that episode of the podcast, because the new mission statement of the Powerhouse Mentality is we help you stop tolerating your own bullshit to finally win in life. So everything that we do moving forward is going to help you do just that, okay? Now, today, I'm going to break down 3 books that are going to help you stop tolerating your own bullshit to finally win in life. Now, there are so many books that I could choose from because I've read so many books since I really got obsessed with reading, which was back in 2020 when I first started 75 Hard. And it's funny because before that, I fucking hated to read. I was the kid in high school who, when we were assigned a book, I would go and Spark Notes that shit. Like, I would never actually read the book. I would just go to Spark Notes and I would get the summary and I would get all of the information that I needed to just be able to pass the quiz and the test. But I never really read the books because there's something about when you're in high school or middle school or college, when somebody says, hey, you have to read this book, versus you being able to pick and choose the books that you get to read based on what interests you most. So when I was first put back into reading, it was actually a little bit before I started 75 Hard, the first personal development book that I ever read, and it's not on this list, however, it's an amazing book that I think that everybody should read at some point in their life because it teaches you how to communicate with people, which we all need. Most people in this day and age cannot even look somebody in the eye. How many times have you gone to the grocery store or the gas station and you're checking out and the person who's checking you out won't even look at you or barely says hello to you? Wild. But that book is a Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that was the first personal development book that I ever read, and it was recommended to me when I was a sales manager at the gym, because they said, hey, this book will help you level up to be better at your career, to get the promotion that you want. And it did. It helped me so much, and that's when I became obsessed with personal development books. At that time, I was already obsessed with Andy Frisella's podcast, which at the time, it was called the MFCEO. Shout out to everybody who knows what the MFCEO is, because that was before Real AF, and it was all about literally like how to be the best version of you, how to be an entrepreneur, how to make money, how to be successful, how to build a business. If you haven't gone back and listened to those episodes, they are invaluable. But that's when I really became obsessed with personal development books. And I started reading sales books. I started reading leadership books because I was in a manager's position and I was in a leadership position. I was in a sales position and I wanted to become the best at that. So I became obsessed with information, with knowledge. And at the time, I was taking in all of these different knowledge. Like, I was taking in all this different information and all this different knowledge, and I loved it. And then I started to actually apply it, which is why I always say knowledge is not power, but applied knowledge is power. Knowledge only has potential power. But until you can apply that knowledge to your life in order to help you become better, that knowledge just sits in your brain, it rots away, and it just takes up space. So for those out there who just take in knowledge, read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, do all the courses, but you don't do shit or take action when it comes to those things that you're learning, then they're irrelevant. They're just taking up space in your head. So reading has been such an important part of my growth in life, in all areas of my life. And it's done so many things for me, and it continues to do so many things for me. Like, even when I'm not doing 75 Hard, which I haven't done in a hot minute, over a year, and I probably will never do it again. Maybe I will. Not sure. I've done it enough times. It helps me be more creative. It helps me have more knowledge. It helps me have better ideas, more ideas. And one of the most valuable things about reading is that it helps you look at life in different perspectives. So you learn from other people's experiences. You learn from other people's losses, from their wins. You get advice from people who are further ahead in life than you, or who have built something that you want to build in life, or have accomplished what you want to accomplish in life. And you can learn from their mistakes. You can learn from their wins. You can learn from them. And like I said, I really, really started to read when I was a sales manager because I wanted to become better there. And then when I started 75 Hard, it actually became a habit where I wasn't just reading 50 pages one day and then a week later I'd read another 50 pages. It was more like I was reading every single day and it became a non-negotiable for me. So the same thing applies now. The only days that I don't read are Saturdays because I spend time with Stone and I want to be 100% present. Could I read on Saturday? Yeah, I could wake up earlier. I could go to bed later. However, I just don't. That's just my thing. Whatever. But now every single day other than that, I read 10 pages a day. And I love reading 10 pages a day because it allows you to not overload yourself with information. So you're learning, but you're learning enough where you can actually absorb the information and then apply what you learned the next day. Instead of what I used to do, which I would read 50, 60, 70 pages at a time. And then by the time I get to the end of what I'm reading, I don't remember the last bit of what I read. Versus, okay, I'm reading these 10 pages. I'm going to be fully intentional with what I read. And I'm going to apply it to my life the next day. So it helps. So if you're somebody who hasn't read or who thinks that they hate reading or who wants to make it a habit but doesn't really know where to start, I highly recommend doing 10 pages a day because I think that is just it's just so manageable. To say, oh, I'm just going to read 10 pages, that's so easy, right? Even it doesn't matter how slow you read it, right? Because when I first started reading, I was really slow. Now I'm a lot faster. That's just kind of how life works. As you do something over and over again, you become better at it, faster at it. But wherever you are at on your journey, reading can help you. And the reason why I wanted to speak about these 3 books is because I've actually gotten the question a lot on, hey, I want to read a book, or I have a new book that I want to read. What do you recommend? Or what are some books that you recommend everybody read? And I really thought about this because, like I said, since 2020, with starting 75 Hard and really making reading a solid habit in my life and really becoming obsessed with personal development, I've read so many books. I have all these books on the shelf behind me, but then I also have a bookshelf here that has so many books on it that I have just like drawers filled with books too. So if you need a book, I could probably send you a book. But these are the 3 books that I recommend as a foundation. This is on a foundational level that I think everybody should read and everybody could get amazing value from. And now these are in no specific order because it's going to be different depending where you're at in your life. Okay? Everybody's different. It's kind of like the same thing as nutrition, right? There is no one-size-fits-all approach. However, there's a general foundation that we can all follow that will help us see results. Now, before I get into the list of books, I forgot to open my drink. We got Maison Perrier Peach because it's what I got. Man, that sounds good. All right. So, again, in no particular order. Number 1, and when I list these, I'm not just going to list them. I'm also going to give you a brief summary without ruining the book for you, as well as give you a reason on why it could be a good read for you, so that way you can make the decision on whether or not you think that this is the right book for you at this point in your life. Now, number 1 is The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. Now, I've read this book 6 times. It's that good. And it's one of those books where you come back to, and every single time you come back to it, you're either reminded by how important the things that are in the book are and how they can help you grow in life, or you get a different takeaway. I find that when I reread books, I get different takeaways every single time that I read them that help me become exponentially better. Now, this is a book that teaches you the power of thinking positively and setting high goals. So the author argues that success isn't just about skills or intelligence or talent, but about the belief in one's ability to actually achieve great things. And there's an amazing quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes I go back to all the time in that book, and it is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it talks all about belief. If you believe that you can't do something, then your mind is going to do everything in its power to prove that right, which includes self-sabotage, right? Versus if you believe that something can happen, then your brain is going to do everything in its power to prove that right. So which one would you rather, right? It's kind of like, and I use this analogy all the time, if you're going for a 1 rep max back squat and you believe that like, hey, I'm going to hit this. No way I'm not going to hit this. You have a much better chance of hitting that squat versus somebody who goes up to the squat rack and says, I'm not going to hit this squat. They're definitely not going to hit it because they're going to give up when things get hard. That's why belief is so important. If you believe, then you can overcome the temporary pain that's necessary. Because on the other side of the temporary pain is the best version of yourself, is the version of yourself that you're chasing. But you have to be able to go through that temporary pain to reap the benefits or reap the rewards. So this book is going to offer you advice on how to build confidence, how to eliminate fear, and how to think creatively in order to actually fulfill your true potential. Now, why would you read it? Why should you read it if you're in a position I'm like, maybe I'll read this book? I think it's a great read for anybody who's looking to boost their confidence or to overcome self-doubt. So if you're somebody who really, really deals with self-doubt on a daily basis, which is a lot of people, then this is the absolute book for you because everything that he teaches in this book is very straightforward and very actionable. So it makes it very accessible for anybody wanting to make a significant change in their mindset. So that's the first one, The Magic of Thinking Big. The second one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, this is a book that I recommend to every single one of my clients because the reality is achieving any sort of goal comes down to habit and behaviors. So if I want to lose 20 pounds, then I'm going to have specific habits and behaviors that get me to the goal. For example, if I want to lose 20 pounds, but I have a habit of going to McDonald's every day for lunch and overeating, then that habit isn't going to serve my goal, so I have to replace it with a better habit that is going to serve my goals. And that's what Atomic Habits is all about. It's a practical guide to building good habits and breaking bad ones. So one of the biggest things that he speaks about is how tiny incremental changes can lead to huge, remarkable improvements over time. And that's kind of like what I say all the time. Small things done consistently over time compound to create massive change. It's true. People think that there's like this massive thing that's going to make a big change in their life, when in our reality, it's the things that you do that are so small that you do them consistently that build up. There's a difference between the people who are average in life and the people who are super successful. And it's like 15%. It's not like 120%. It's like the little things that they do. Those who are super successful just do the things consistently that the average people do occasionally. So you're closer to success than you think. You're closer to your goals than you think. He has a really great analogy in this book where he uses an ice cube, and he says, like, if you're going to put an ice cube on a table in a room that's 20 degrees, that ice cube remains an ice cube because it's below freezing. For all my Canadian friends, that's below freezing. I'm using Fahrenheit. However, the temperature in the room goes up 1 degree, 21, 22, 23, 24, and you see no change until it goes above 32, which is above freezing, and then the ice cube begins to melt. However, you didn't see the progress. Okay, that's like invisible progress, compounding, pounding. Think of a piñata, right? People are pounding that piñata and nobody sees that it's being broken up. Most people stop before the candy falls out. That's you in life. You stop before the candy falls out. You're pounding and pounding and pounding at this thing. And there's almost like this invisible progress that you're not seeing because because the candy didn't fall out. However, you stop, you quit. But you only needed one more hit and the candy would have fallen out and you would have gotten your goals. But most people quit before the candy falls out. So keep pounding, compounding. And then the third book is Relentless. Relentless by Tim Grover. Now, Tim Grover has 2 books that are really phenomenal, Relentless being the first one, and then Winning being like the sequel. I highly recommend reading both, but if you were to choose one, Relentless, because it's the first one, right? Now, this is literally a no bullshit, no nonsense guide to achieving elite performance. And that's why I love it so much, because it's literally zero bullshit. And that is how we operate here in the Powerhouse Mentality. So this is literally the book that will help you develop your Powerhouse Mentality, literally. Now, Tim Grover was a personal trainer for top athletes like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and the book really focuses on categorizing people into 3 different groups, like coolers, closers, and cleaners, explaining what it takes to be at the very top of your game. Now, he really emphasizes mindset, discipline, and relentless pursuit that's required to reach and maintain your peak performance. Now, why would you read this? Because most people have terrible mindset. Most people tolerate their own bullshit. Most people give in to all of their excuses. Most people don't achieve what they want in life because of their feelings. But your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. So if you're somebody who wants to build mental toughness, build discipline, build dedication needed to be able to be unstoppable in life, this is probably the most valuable book that you'll ever read. It will help you develop your powerhouse mentality, that's for damn sure. So these are the 3 books that I recommend on a foundational level, things that everybody should read. Now, if you've read all these books and you're like, well, I don't know what to read next, shoot me a message. I'd be more than happy to do 2 things. 1, expand on this and do another episode of the training, of the podcast, where I talk about other books, but also I'll give you a direct recommendation based on exactly where you're at in life and what you want to learn. So I hope that this episode was valuable to you guys. If it was, please share the podcast. Please comment down below. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was, and go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be. I'll see you guys.